It's that time when bad is good and terrible is even better. Yes, it's this week's Zayas Report, your weekly look at cult movies and other crap. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host, the movie man who knows it all and where the bodies are buried. His horrorness, the Prince of Slime, the original invader for Mars himself, the man for whom the phrase B-grade was invented. Welcome, Zayas.
Well, welcome to another podcast of the Cult Movie Show with myself, Warren, and joining me in the virtual studio, as always, is, of course, the magnificent Velvet Rose. How are you, Velvet?
I'm doing quite fantastic, all stocked up on some awesome movies to talk about tonight. And yeah, I'm ready when you are. Let's do it.
Oh, I'm excited. We've got some good ones tonight, and we've got some absolute crap as well. But we should just say, Velvet, is that people may have noticed that it's the old intro that we just played. It's the Zayas Report intro, where, of course, we're now the Cult Movie Show. And that's because this is actually a B-roll recording. We didn't actually record this 5 minutes ago. When you're hearing this, we may have actually recorded this a month ago. This is basically our fill-in show, as most people have with podcasts, just in case somebody's sick or, you know, they're a little bit hungover from the night before or something along those lines. So just so people sort of wonder, well, wasn't that the old intro? Yeah, that's the reason why. So let's get started, Velvet. And I should actually say, how are you going though? You're doing well?
I'm doing quite fantastic. So we did watch a really shitty movie for this, but then we watched two good ones. So we watched a good one and then we watched a really, really good one. So it balanced out that holy piece of shit that we're getting ready to talk about. So
I think we balanced it out. We balanced it out pretty well.
Totally,
I think.
totally.
But we're gonna start with we're gonna start bad and work our way good, I think is maybe the best way to say it. And we're going to start with a movie from the United Kingdom from 2012 called Alien Uprising, or as it's often referred to as well, UFO. It's basically under both titles. It really depends on where you live. It's Alien Uprising in the US, is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Where I think in Britain and Australia it's under the title of UFO. But if you type either into your search engine, you'll probably find it anyway. So
right. So in my case, I had to find this movie by looking it up by who's in the movie, because UFO in the United States is just too generic of a title, and like everything, a million things came up for UFO. So I had to actually look up this movie by one of the stars that's in the movie. And then from there, I was able to go, wait, is this movie Alien Uprising? Is this the same movie? And I had to like list off the cast, and I'm like, okay, this is it.
This is it. This is the one. I mean, look, that often happens, you know, where movies don't have obviously the same name depending on what country, you know, you live in, which can make life a little bit awkward. But I must also say, this is from the UK, but it is, of course, from 2012. Now, don't confuse this with the Jerry Anderson TV series UFO, which, oh my God, which was so good, which I absolutely love. But don't confuse it. This is not, you know, it's not that. This is a serious, I don't know what we're going to call this, serious sci-fi action adventure / kung fu movie is about the best way I can really do it. So, look,
I think that sums it up.
We'll give you a quick rundown and then we'll get into the guts of it. So it's set in the United Kingdom, as we said, and we've got a group of friends and they go out clubbing one night. That's basically how the movie starts. And they come home and there's a bit of an earthquake that sort of happens. It throws them a little bit. Then they lose all the power and everyone in Britain seems to have lost power. And then when they get up in the morning, they're quite stunned to actually find spaceships hovering over their towns, or in this case, the town where they live. And of course, nobody quite knows what to do. There's no power, there's no television, there's no radio. And so people start sort of stocking up for the inevitable apocalypse that they think is going to happen. And then, of course, the apocalypse pretty much does start to happen as war between the aliens and the humans begins. And that's pretty much our story. It's a bit like War of the Worlds, I suppose, but in a much shittier version.
Exactly. I was going to say, don't get excited, people. This is not a good movie.
Our group of friends basically have to try to survive while this war is going on between, the governments of the world and these aliens. But then we have this huge twist that gets thrown in there as well. And that is there actually only one species of alien, or is there more than one species of alien? And are we, as humans, actually just being caught up in an intergalactic war, and we just happen to be the new territory that they're fighting for?
Oh my God!
Which is a really interesting plot line, but this movie just doesn't seem to pull it off somehow. So, what were your thoughts on watching Alien Uprising UFO?
Wow. Well, first, I got to say, you got a lot more out of this movie than I did. I was like, oh, there's the hidden meaning. So, but yeah, God. I don't even know what to say. I definitely did not like it. I'm sure you can tell. I'm not optimistic about this movie at all. If you're a fan of Jean-Claude Van Damme, yes, he's in this movie, people. Even if you're a fan of Jean-Claude Van Damme, skip it. Don't watch this movie.
No.
This is definitely a role that I think he took as a favor, possibly to his daughter. Yes, his daughter, Bianca Bridget Van Damme, is in the film. And I was noticing that she actually spells her name Van Damme as one word, whereas Jean-Claude Van Damme, the father, spells Van Damme as two words. Just thought that was interesting. So I don't know if she's trying to modernize her name and make her own name, but...
That's interesting. I didn't realize that, actually.
Yeah, I was just noticing this. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But anyway, so definitely, I think he has just a little small role. So I guess maybe he kind of did it as a favor to his daughter. Like, hey, Dad, can you come be in this movie? So, which I'm sure I don't know. I mean, I really don't know the whole story. It's kind of an odd...
It is weird because, yes, as we're saying, Jean-Claude Van Damme is in the movie, and so too for especially British audiences will of course recognise the name Sean Pertwee, who has been in a ton of stuff, such as Dog Soldiers. In fact, he was the star of Dog Soldiers, and but it's very interesting that this movie puts Sean Pertwee and Jean-Claude Van Damme basically in the top listing credits, but both of them are only in the movie for about, 4 minutes each? 5 minutes each? It's pretty much they've just been placed in there, shoot your stuff in one day, and then basically we can at least put your name on the box art. And
oh my God.
So if anyone was sort of expecting Jean-Claude or Sean Pertwee because they like both actors, you're going to be a little bit disappointed, I have to say.
Exactly. This movie had a really odd editing style. Like, it's constantly intercutting scenes, and you don't know what the hell the scenes are until you watch the entire movie. So they're kind of like flash forward flashbacks, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Like, they're flashing forward to something that's going to happen that hasn't happened yet, but because it hasn't happened yet, you don't know what the hell they're showing you. and you're just like, and it's like they were trying to be really artistic, but it just ends up being really cacophonous, really noisy, really chaotic. And honestly, it honestly kind of got on my nerves. So first off, the movie starts off with them clubbing, and there's a lot of, techno music. So if you're not a fan of techno music, that can already grate on your nerves. And then with the constant jump cuts, and I actually like techno, but the constant jump cuts, it makes me feel like I'm on drugs, and I'm just like, what's going on? And then one scene I really, really, really didn't like, that actually made me a little bit angry, because I hate this kind of stuff, is when they intercut sex with violence, or when they intercut sex with something disgusting. So there's a scene, You already know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There's a scene where, everybody's gone home from clubbing. All these friends go home together. So there's two couples and they're having sex in separate rooms. But it's like this one couple's having sex, and then it goes to the one friend who's single, and he's in the bathroom puking into a toilet. And it's not implied vomiting. You see yellow bile shooting out of his mouth into the toilet.
Yeah, I know.
Then they cut to another scene of the other couple having sex, but then they cut back to the guy still graphically barfing. Then they cut back to the other couple having sex, and they cut back to the friend barfing again. And they kept doing this, and I'm just like, that really bothers me. I don't like that kind of stuff. Don't show me people getting killed and then fucking, and don't show me people fucking and somebody barfing. I hate that kind of stuff.
I know, it was really weird the way they. I mean, I understand, what they're sort of trying to do. They've got this idea of, there's 5 people in a house, 2 couples and 1 single person, and they're all sort of temporarily sharing the house. But it's and I get what they're trying to say. You've got the single guy who didn't pick up, at the nightclub, so he's by himself. So you've got the sad one, and then you've got the 2 happy ones, but. Right. Yeah, but it was very off-putting, the way they shot it.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all.
No.
I was like, what are they doing? And then one of the characters in the story is she's a girl that goes home with this guy that she met at the club, and then, she spends the night. And then, the next day they wake up and there's like a spaceship in the sky. All the electricity in the United Kingdom is out. People can't use their cell phones, all that shit. And so this girl just ends up hanging out with this group while it's kind of, everybody's starting to slowly panic. They're starting to loot stores. People are starting to rob people and beat people up, because they're panicking and they're surviving, and they want to steal what people have. And there were some good moments though while that was happening. I mean, as in internal statements about Europe right now. I mean, for instance, when there is the black woman who is lining up to try to get food from the supermarket. And these, sort of neo-Nazis are hanging around, and when she does sort of get her food, instead of them just trying to get into the shop and get food themselves, they chase after her to basically beat her up and get what she's got. And there's all this stuff about, when they're sort of saying, go back to Africa and stuff. So there was a bit of a real statement about what's happening, in the Western world right now. There's definitely trying to be some social commentary. Like, as you mentioned, I didn't get as much out of this as you did, but you did make a valid point of the whole, well, are we really the aliens? And now it's just kind of like, because, that goes back to the whole picking on the weaker. You pick on the foreigner because, hey, I was born here and you weren't, so get out. And, hey, I've got bigger weapons than you, so I'm going to take over your planet, even though we look the exact same and speak the same language. I mean, I guess they tried to have a message in this movie, but just the whole editing style and the storyline was so loose, and also just, okay, and also I couldn't stand the way that they used Jean-Claude Van Damme. I don't know what they were doing with this character. So it's supposed to be evidently, they kept hinting that everybody that were basically following around this group of friends, that they have some kind of military background, evidently. It's never really 100% clear what the fuck they were doing. And finally, at one point, one of the guy mentions what his rank was and what his experience was, but it kind of just didn't matter. It was just like, okay.
No, it's sort of, we find out as the movie progresses that our main character is meant to be an SAS officer in the British Army. And and if anyone doesn't know if you're American, you don't know what that is, that's like the SEALs and all that sort of stuff. It's the elite of the elite sort of thing. But so that's what he's meant to be, and that's why when they do meet up with real British soldiers, when the battles are going on, that's why he pulls rank on them and so forth. But we find out that he's carrying a hidden secret, though.
But that was so stupid. That didn't even fucking matter at all.
What did it have to do with the movie,
Exactly. I'm just going to ruin it for everybody because I don't want you people to see this movie. That's why we review these movies. We review these movies, so if they're pieces of shit, you don't have to watch them. So basically, long story short, all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, he's like, I've got a secret. I've been dishonorably discharged. And then the alien, and you can't see my finger quotations, I'm going, the alien, blows his head off. And I'm like, didn't see that coming.
No.
Well, it turns out the alien was this woman that he picked up at the club that's been hanging out with him the entire time. And I'm like, well, why'd she fucking kill him?
We have this idea that goes through the whole movie that aliens are hiding in plain sight, basically looking like humans.
Right.
But it's never really explained why they're doing this. And,
right.
It just is never explained. It's possibly, maybe they're sort of trying to say that the aliens are looking like humans so they can observe humans. They can see how they act and so forth. Because one of the things which I think is pointed out by the character Sean Pertwee is that the reason why the aliens are sort of looking like humans is that the aliens aren't going to fire the first shot. So they want to observe how humans behave when these spaceships land. And so it's almost more a scientific mission rather than, but then the shooting all starts anyway. So it's all kind of crazy. And that's like what you were saying. It doesn't make any sense. And this other huge thing too, which really doesn't make sense, is that, we sort of find out as this movie goes on, sometimes a spaceship will be flying along and another spaceship will shoot it down. Like, not the British Army, another spaceship. And it's like, what is going on? And you sort of are drawn into this idea that maybe there are two other species from other planets and they're fighting a war, and their war has simply just come to our shores, and they're now fighting over Earth. So they're not actually trying to take over the Earth. They're just using Earth as a battleground in part of their, in part of their own war. But it's never really explained.
What a bunch of asshole aliens if that's what they were doing. That's so rude.
I know.
Fight on your own. Yeah, go fight in space. Don't fuck up our planet.
Because there's even in this film, we see space battles between one spaceship and another spaceship. And it's like, what is going on here is, and the problem is that none of this is ever actually explained. And that's what makes it so hard.
No. Oh my God. There's so many flaws with this movie. Okay. So they finally figure out that the way you can tell if somebody is an alien, because aliens look like humans, evidently, is that they're going to have, was it a purple triangle on their thigh? Is that what they said?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm like, so it turns out the girl that went home with this guy and had fucked his brains out all night has been hanging out with him the entire time. And then she blows his brains out. They all of a sudden decide that, oh shit, she might be an alien that looks like a human. And so they're like, here, we need to strip her down and see if she's got a fucking tattoo on her thigh. And I'm like, she fucked that guy. He should know.
I know.
He should know.
I know.
Why do they need to undress her to find out? So I was just that bothered. And even right at the beginning of the movie when they're having sex, she's wearing pantyhose and he's ripping the pantyhose right at the crotch, right on her thigh. And I'm like, if there was a fucking little triangle tattoo, he would have seen it. I guarantee it.
I was thinking exactly the same thing when I saw that. And one thing that should be pointed out is that Dominic Burns actually made this movie. And what's interesting is he wrote it, he directed it, and he produced it. So I don't know if we're seeing maybe, I know you will have remembered from an earlier podcast we talked about The Room, and I'm wondering if there's maybe, it's a little bit like, I wrote the theme tune, I sang the theme tune, it's like, there's, is there, like, he just seems to have control of all facets of this movie, and
oh man,
I don't know. I can't really recommend this one, although there's a couple of things about it. I mean, I suppose the special effects are actually pretty good. I think.
I don't know. I don't think they're bad, but I don't know. I don't know.
But why are they there? I mean, that's the thing. Why are we seeing a space battle?
There was actually a scene for half a split second. I barely saw it. Most people probably miss it if they blink. there's actually a scene where one of the girls, actual human, not alien, is in the house by herself, and the guys are outside dicking around doing whatever it is they do. And she's like, she gets all freaked out because all she has is a flashlight, and of course, it's a typical movie, and the batteries are failing or whatever, and like she starts getting freaked out because she's hearing like footsteps or knocking. It sounds like there's something in the house with her. So you start thinking, okay, there might be an alien, or she might just have a bad case of nerves. And for a split half second, she shines a light somewhere, and there's a black furry thing that steps out of frame.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah,
okay.
I saw that. And I was hoping that would lead into something really spooky and cool.
And it did not.
It didn't. It finishes because we see that she hasn't seen it. So then there's the setup. There's the suspense. Mm-hmm. So now she's going to turn around and it'll be standing beside her. That's suspense. That's the way you would write and film this stuff. It's not what Dominic Burns decided to do. No, what he decided to do was when we see this creature just out for a split second, she then, she doesn't see it, but she then runs outside the house to witness a huge explosion as there's two British soldiers there with a rocket launcher who have just blown up a spaceship. And we never see or hear anything about the alien inside the house again.
That was it, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. And the whole Van Damme thing, I probably wouldn't have been so distracted by this if they hadn't have used such a well-known actor. It really bothered me that evidently, like you already said, it looks like they basically shot all of his scenes in one day. So like about 80% of his scenes are him talking, and there's nobody else around him. So he keeps switching like perspectives and sides and looking from side to side like he's talking to somebody. But evidently he was just talking to the air, and they had to film around him. So and they would just intercut the other actors responding to him. And I was just like, oh, that's so annoying to me that it's so obvious. I don't know why this bothers me so much. But, if it had been any other actor, I probably wouldn't have given a fuck. But it's so obvious to me that they were like, okay, we can only afford you for one day. So, here's your lines.
And he's meant to be playing some sort of ex-secret agent or
he's
something.
He's like a mentor to all of them. He's like a mentor to like all of them. And the whole time this basically what the movie is really about is they're like, okay, we got to go find this guy. We got to go find our, basically our mentor and see what he knows. And he can tell us the inside intel, and he can tell us what's going on and what we should do. And and they get to him, and it's just anticlimactic. And he's got this fucking radio.
Oh, the radio. Oh, tell everyone about the radio.
Oh my God. How old is that radio? That's like, at first I was like, is that 1950s? And I think that's like from 1920s.
Oh,
I think it has it's ancient. It's ancient. It's so old. And for some reason, this guy, like you open up like a kitchen cabinet and he has this old timey fucking radio in there. And evidently this radio is picking up information, top secret information. And that's how he knows what's going on with the aliens and what the government knows and what the government's not telling the people. And so like they get there and he's like, here, I've got the radio basically. And he's like showing them, this is how I got my information. So the alien ships come to his house, and he goes outside holding this radio. This is Jean-Claude Van Damme. This is the guy that can. This is the guy that can outsplit any ballerina on the planet. This guy is a martial artist icon. But anyways, he goes out with this fucking old timey radio, and he's like, "This is what you want, the radio." And so he thinks he's like giving this to the aliens, and they're going to leave him alone. The aliens blow him up.
Yes, I know.
I was like, wow, I didn't see that coming.
But this radio seriously looks like it was actually built by Marconi himself. It looks so old.
It was ridiculous.
And it's meant to be that these were meant to be supposedly secret radios that like the United Nations put together at the end after Roswell. Obviously, they put Roswell into it. That after Roswell, and they invented these special radios that could tap into alien communication. Well, first of all, such a secret piece of technology. How the fuck did he get hold of it?
And how is it still working?
I know. God. And it's just an old valve radio. It's just, oh my goodness. It's amazing.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was so... stupid. I was just like,
and the ending of this too. And I look, we won't give the ending away because somebody may still listening may be intrigued enough to actually watch.
I thought we already did give.
Oh no! There's more to come. Don't worry. There's more to come.
Blew up Van Damme. That was the ending for me.
For you.
I'm kidding.
But the ending is kind of weird. That's all I'm going to say. It doesn't. You will finish this movie basically saying, "I have no idea what just happened." Like it's you don't know who's on whose side. You don't know if the people are aliens, if they're people. You don't know how many different species of aliens there are. And the movie, right in the very last minute, has still not answered one single question. It's but one of the things that is interesting is there's a ton, and I mean a ton, of martial arts fighting in this movie.
Oh, God.
Did you notice that?
So
and it's like,
it was really out of place.
Like, why? You're making this alien war movie and you're having martial arts battles between these different people. It's like, what was the point of that? I mean, mind you, they're pretty good.
Like the female alien, like, I remember there's a part where the guy that she hooked up with is fighting this other, I guess, alien guy, and like they're doing the whole kung fu thing. And I remember when I first watched this movie, I'm like, dang, she's just standing there and staring and watching, like she's not reacting at all. I was like, either this is really bad acting, or like she thought the camera wasn't on her. Like I thought she just wasn't paying attention, to be honest. And then later in the movie, she basically reacts, replicates that whole fight scene with somebody else. And I'm like, oh, she was watching and learning. Oh, yeah. I get it. Oh, she's a mimic alien. She mimics human behavior. So she can watch somebody do a fucking kung fu fight and then just copy it.
I mean, I'm sure if you watch this with Dominique Burns, he could probably explain to you what's going on. But if you don't have the pleasure of having Dominique Burns in your living room while you watch it, you're going to find it really hard. I mean, it's easy enough to follow, but you're not going to understand what the hell's happened at the end. It's, and we've got a love triangle thrown in as well. I'd almost forgotten about that.
Oh, I actually forgot about that. That was totally unnecessary. Because
then we go into this like, after her boyfriend is killed, we then find out that he is actually in lust, or I won't say lust with her, her best friend. So then what does he try to do? He tries to rape her.
I was just getting ready to say, I was like, oh my God, yeah.
And then she's saved, of course, by the two British soldiers that they're hanging out with now. And it's just, I don't know why. I really don't know why half of the stuff that's in this movie is in it, because it just doesn't have any relevance whatsoever to what the movie's about.
No, it does not. It does not.
It's a strange one. So, look,
I didn't like this movie at all. I think it's a complete waste of time. And it actually did make me think of The Room. Not that I don't know. It's just, I think, not because I'm like, oh, this movie's like The Room. It's not like The Room, but being that it was written and directed by the same person, I just get it. Yeah, like you said, you addressed it. This person evidently had a vision, and it doesn't look like they had much help with that vision.
Yeah, I know. It's like sometimes you get movies, where sort of one person or two people working in collaboration, do everything, like the writing, the directing. And like I can think of, for instance, like a movie like The Ouija Experiment. Now, that worked really well. That's actually kind of a cool film. It's got some classic lines in there, poking fun at sort of, ghost movies. It's got a couple of freaky bits in it, but it's done sort of quite well. But then I remember they went on to make The Ouija Experiment Part 2. And oh my God, one of the worst movies you will ever see. And I think this is a bit like that. This movie just had lost the plot before they even shot the first bit of footage. This movie had probably already lost it, just in the writing and stuff. But look, I'd still say to people, look, if you've got a free hour and a half and you're trying to avoid doing your homework or cutting the lawn or any of those tasks you hate doing, probably maybe go and do the task you hate doing rather than watch the movie.
Yeah, don't waste your time. Don't watch this. Don't waste your time.
But I'll be honest with you, when I did watch this, Velvet, I didn't really come out of it saying I just wasted an hour and a half. I mean, there was some stuff I liked about it. But
I agree. I don't feel like I wasted my time, but I just cannot recommend.
I'd be hard pushed to recommend it. But I didn't come away sort of saying, oh, I absolutely hated it. I wish I had that hour and a half back. I'm still glad I saw it, but
it definitely left you with a feeling of what did I just watch? It was definitely one of those, like, oh yeah, what happened? Like, wait, what's going on? It's just not a well-made movie. It's just not a good movie.
No.
And as I said, even if you're a die-hard Jean-Claude Van Damme fan and you watch everything he's in, you don't want to watch this movie. Or if you really want to watch it, just fast forward towards the end and watch his 5 minutes of footage, watch him get blown up, and you're done. You don't need to watch the whole movie.
That's right. Just when we're saying he's in it for 5 minutes, we're not joking. I don't even know if it is 5 minutes, actually. Mm-hmm. It's pretty short amount of time.
And honestly, even if you only just watch him and then nothing else, you're still going to understand just about the same amount that you would if you watched the entire movie. So, yeah.
One thing I will say, though, is you will realise just how short he is when you watch this movie, because when he comes running out of the house holding the radio, and there's the people running behind him, and they're not, like, you've got two women who are running behind him, and they're not overly tall women, right? And he's still shorter than them.
Jean-Claude.
Dearie me. I know he's popular. I know I've said this before. I've just never got the Jean-Claude Van Damme thing.
Hey, you can't like every actor. You know? But I do like him. I do like him, but not in this movie. In this movie.
But the other thing too is his daughter has got. Because like he's obviously got his accent. His daughter has her accent.
She speaks perfect American English. She speaks perfect American English.
Really?
Yeah. I was listening. I watched the movie. I was like, wow, she speaks perfect American English. I'm really surprised.
I thought she... now that's
I didn't catch any accent. No,
that's really interesting, because I thought she had an accent.
I didn't detect it, no. To me, she sounded American. I was like, oh, wow, she speaks perfect American English. I did not expect that.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, then, mind you, she was probably raised in the United States anyway.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm like, evidently she didn't get the whole Belgian accent. Good for her.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's good for her if she wants to act in mainstream Hollywood. It'll be easier if you don't have a Belgian accent, unless she can, outsplit a ballerina and do, kickboxing like her father.
But there's also some things. I mean, you look at a lot of actors from Europe who have actually. I'm talking about very serious movies in the United States. They can lose their accent. They can just switch it on or off because they're professional actors. Mm-hmm. But you look at people like Jean-Claude Van Damme or Arnold Schwarzenegger and people like that, they keep their accents on purpose. In fact, I swear that Arnold Schwarzenegger's accent often gets thicker. Is it just me?
I've noticed that too. And I don't know if that's just because maybe he's been around friends and family that speak German, and then sometimes when you switch back to the other language, sometimes your accent will cling on for a little stronger. I don't know.
Yeah, because
I'm not 100% sure.
Because it's interesting. You look at a lot of actors, say from Germany or France or Italy, that actually work in the United States now, and you can often see them putting on a perfect American accent. Mm-hmm. But then again, those people are professionally trained, where people like Jean-Claude and Arnold aren't. So that would probably have, quite a lot to do with that. So anyway, that was UFO or Alien Uprising. Yes.
I do wish, if they had followed up on the little black furry alien, I might have been more into this movie. Like if they had turned that into something, like if it turned out to be a cute little alien or like a really scary furry black alien.
Scary furry.
I may have been much more into this movie, but no, yeah. Don't watch it,
so
people.
many,
Don't waste your time.
So many
go
lost...
do your laundry, go hang out with friends, read a book, learn a new skill.
Yes.
Not this movie.
So many lost opportunities in this movie. It could have been so much better so easily, but anyway.
Totally.
Never mind. Anyway, so I've got a feeling that's basically a thumbs down, isn't it?
Oh, big time.
Wow.
2 thumbs down.
Wow.
2 thumbs
yeah,
down.
okay. We don't have many thumbs down on the show, so
No.
so that's interesting. Yeah. That is interesting. When we review a movie of basically just a man running around in a rubber suit killing people and we give it a thumbs up, if we're giving this a thumbs down, it's got to be pretty bad.
Yeah, it's got to be pretty bad.
It's got to be pretty bad. All right. We'll just take a quick break and then we'll be back with something hopefully a bit better than this piling, stinking heap of whatever. We'll be right back. Now, movie number 2. And this is an interesting one. I'd never even heard of this movie, I have to admit, until a few days ago when Velvet brought it up. And it's from Mexico from 1962 called Brainiac. And I have to admit, Mexican cinema is something I haven't really experienced very much of, especially to classic Mexican cinema. So this was really interesting. I'm really interested to find out, Velvet, where did you find this?
This is hilarious the way I came across this movie. My Netflix is actually pretty awesome here in the United States. My account actually has a section in the categories. You have all your typical categories: horror, comedy, documentary. They even have a cult film category. And I'm like, oh, this I got to take a look at. And they actually had this gem in there, The Brainiac from 1962. And I was like, oh, what's this? And yeah, I was like, this might be something for us.
And I'll tell you what, it definitely was. So we'll just explain to people what The Brainiac is about. Because when I first started watching this, I think I got about 15 minutes into the movie and I still couldn't work out how the movie gets its title. Brainiac, like what, because it doesn't make any sense, but it will make sense as you sort of get further into the movie. So,
right. Yeah. I was wondering too. I was like, where'd they come up with this?
I know.
But then, okay. Oh.
But it also leaves more answers. It actually raises more questions than it gives you answers though, in many ways.
Yes, totally.
But anyway, the movie is set in Mexico and starts in the year 1661, with now his name is Baron, Vitalitas of Astaria. I think, is that right?
You got it. Yep.
Yeah.
You got it.
So we're just going to call him the Baron from now on because I'm not going to say that.
Yeah, it's a pretty long name.
So it starts with the Baron, and he's basically been arrested, charged, or whatever by the Inquisition. And of course, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. That's just a bit of a Monty Python line there. Anyway, yes, we will put you in the comfy chair, serve you cups of hot tea, and poke you with a soft cushion until you confess. Oh, well, God, my childhood.
Kind of what it looks like they did to him, though, don't you think? He looks pretty well relaxed and calm.
He does.
Tortured.
He does at the start. So anyway, they've got him basically bound up, chained up in a chair, and they're putting all these accusations on him of things like witchcraft and all this different sort of thing.
And he's a womanizer of married and single women.
That's right. Yes. So that was another charge. And so anyway, it turns out that he really is playing with the occult. He's not like one of these, what normally happened, obviously, with the Inquisition in the real world, where of course, absolutely, pretty much everyone was pretty much innocent. In this case, in this movie, he actually really is guilty. He really is playing with the occult and devil worship and all this sort of crazy sort of stuff. And so anyway, they decide that they're going to burn him at the stake. So they do that. They tie him up to a stake and they set fire to him. And then he says that a comet flies overhead. And he says that this comet will reappear in 300 years, and I will reappear in 300 years to hunt down all your living relatives. And then, of course, he, goes up in flames, and that's it. And then it crosses to what would have been modern day Mexico, in 1961. And this comet then reappears, and of course, so does the Baron. And then the Baron is, of course, now hell-bent on hunting down everybody and seeking his revenge. But it gets really kind of crazy, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah, it gets really weird, doesn't it? Like when he first comes back, and you're like, wasn't expecting that. He
appears so to explain how he appears. So the comet's flying over, and suddenly this lump of rock just falls from the comet and lands on the ground. And then it mysteriously just turns itself, with very poor special effects, into basically it's a rock 1 minute, it's him the next. That's how bad the special effects are. And then basically it turns into him. But the other amazing thing is that he is a pretty evil dude, because even though he's come forward in time to hunt down all the relatives, he actually kills an awful lot of people who aren't related.
Exactly. I was like, because at first I was like, okay, this is going to be a revenge flick. So, he comes back through the magic of the fucking Halley's Comet or whatever that was. And then it's like the very first person he sees has nothing to do with the bloodline. Because that's his, he wants to wipe out the bloodline of the people who killed him. It's just some random poor schmo, and he kills him to get his clothes. I
know. He kills him, and then he goes around, like he goes and he picks up a woman in a bar and then kills her.
That's right.
And then he meets a prostitute on the street, and he kills her. And there's absolutely no reason, right, why he's doing this. Because he doesn't even meet the very first relative until about halfway through the movie.
Yeah, totally.
It's just, I mean, did you have any idea why all these innocent people were being killed, or was it just to show us?
My only theory was that he needed strength. It's kind of like a vampire that's, come out of hibernation, and it's like they feed on the first few souls they find. Doesn't matter if they're innocent or, guilty or whatever. It's just like, sorry, dude, but I need to eat. It's been a while. So I think he kind of had to do that to, like, gain strength, I guess.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I think that's what I thought. I was like, but what did you think when they first introduced the Baron in 1961? Because he didn't come back looking like a normal person.
When he comes back with, you mean when he's done up as like this almost wolf creature or something? Or
I don't know what the hell that was.
He has this. What happens is when he kills people, he turns into this creature, but he doesn't turn into a full creature. He's still wearing his suit. And it's just his hands and his head that change. And it's like these big, furry, two-fingered hands. And he's got like this sort of weird, like, it looks like a mask you see people wearing, I don't know, like at Mardi Gras or something.
It's a just cheap Halloween mask that you get at the dollar store, and
he's got this special tongue which like hangs down it's about a meter long, right? This tongue.
Totally.
And somehow he uses this tongue to puncture holes in the back of people's heads and sucks their brains out. And that's hence right, and that's hence how we got the name of the movie,
the Brainiac. Because, the original title of the movie is not that creative. The original title of the movie is The Baron of Terror. That's it, The Baron of Terror. And it's not until, the English language gets a hold of it and starts sending it all over the world that they rename it The Brainiac. And I've talked to people who speak English as a foreign language, and oftentimes they'll tell me that's what they like about the English language is it's very rich. It's a very creative language. language, and that you can just literally create words, where most other languages, you kind of just have to take what you have and piece them together. But whereas English, you can just come up with weird and wonderful words like Brainiac that are not in the dictionary, and people understand what it is. They get it. It's kind of like, it's kind of like the brain maniac, you just know you're in for a wild ride when you see a name like that, as opposed to the Baron of Terror, which is kind of boring.
But this is the other thing he does is that, and one of the things he does is, you were saying, to keep his strength up, he sucks these brains out, but they come out in one piece. This is the thing, that they don't come out as goo; they come out as one piece, right? And then he takes these brains home and he stores them in this special pot. And then he goes to the pot every now and again, and he eats them, as he calls it, his medicine. But here's the crazy bit. I thought, right, Velvet, I'd love to know what you think. Is that if you're going to store these brains somewhere, and you don't want somebody to find out that you're ripping people's brains out and eating them, do you think it might be safer to store them maybe in a room that people don't go to, and not store them in the room you entertain people in? Right?
Exactly.
Just
with a little lockbox.
I know.
Lockbox full of brains. Oh, I love that. I laugh so hard when you first find out that's what he's doing. He opens up the box and it's like this goblet, this giant goblet of brains, and then he has like a little cup, and he has a little spoon, and he's eating the brains like sherbet. He like scrapes off the brains into the cup, and then he's just eating the brains like sherbet ice cream. I was just like, oh, I want to know how they made the brains for this movie, because it was in black and white, so they looked pretty kind of convincing.
They could have been. I mean, I don't know. They could have actually just been sheep's brains. Oh, they're probably actually. No, they're probably actually too small, aren't they? I think they're.
I'm not sure.
I don't know. It probably wouldn't have been too.
They look pretty big to me.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't have been too hard to have made them. I mean, the special effects people probably wouldn't have had too much trouble making up some, pretend sort of rubber brains or something. But, and in black and white too, it's a lot easier.
Right.
But the thing is that what it stuns me is that he's entertaining people at his house. Oh, in his house. We've got to talk about that in a second, right? Like he's entertaining people, or people come around, and he just keeps saying, "Oh, excuse me, I have to go and take my medicine," and he literally walks like 3 meters, or 4 meters to their left or to their right, and he opens up his special cupboard and he gets the brains out and stuff. Like he's in clear sight of these people. He doesn't walk into a different room. He doesn't go somewhere else. It's like hiding the brains in clear sight.
Totally. Totally.
But what did you, I don't know if you can explain this, Velvet. He lives in this almost castle, right? In Mexico. Now, what I want to know is, when he comes forward into time, and it's now 1961, how the hell did he get his hands on a castle?
I'm not sure about that either, and it's a really smooth transition too. Like, you don't even really have time to think about, hey, wait, how did he get set up with this home all of a sudden? Like, how does and he has a butler. He has a faithful servant butler who knows he's a fucking monster, because at one point in the movie he's like done the whole monster transition thing and he's getting ready to murder people, and the girl tries to run away and the butler keeps her from leaving. So I'm like, wow, he's got a fucking Igor. It's like he's got a faithful butler servant. How did that happen?
But where did he get his money from? Where did he get all this stuff? It's like
So for a second I was like, well, maybe he sucked somebody's brains out and stole their castle, but then how did he get the fucking butler to come on board with that?
I know.
Because this guy, the butler's not living in fear. He's in total respect. Just kind of like, yep, this is my employer. Is there anything else I can get for you, sir? It's like he just, you know what I mean? He just had that kind of demeanor. And I'm like, I don't know.
And it really is like this old, 15th century castle or something. It's all made of stone and it's even got like swords and axes all, hanging from the roof and, piled up. And it's just, which, I mean, I didn't really know. I mean, look, I've never been to Mexico, so I can't comment, but I didn't know there were a lot of structures like that in Mexico.
There's a lot of architecture there. There's a a lot of culture there, so I can see him finding a castle. But yeah, how did he get?
Yeah.
I want to know how he got the butler.
I know, it's like, yeah, but then again, he does seem to have this ability, the Baron,
mind
to sort of mind control people.
That might be it.
So
okay.
maybe that's what it is.
That must be what it was.
Yeah,
okay,
is what I'm thinking. But
because he is the Brainiac. He doesn't just eat brains. He also has the power of mind control. So he can turn women into raving sluts for him right in front of their husbands. So like they'll be all over him, and he makes the husbands like freeze and watch. Like the husbands can't run away or move or fight or anything, so they have to watch as their wives are loving on the Brainiac.
But isn't it crazy? It's like he like when he finds women that he wants to kill, whether they happen to be the relatives or whether they just happen to be innocent bystanders. When it comes to the women, he puts them in mind control, makes out with them, and then kills them.
Yeah, what a psycho.
He's like a praying mantis,
Ew, totally.
Has sets before they bite the head off,
Yeah, it's like, he's going to have 2 meals. He's going to have dinner and dessert. Oh my goodness. But I just, wow. No, I like this movie. This is actually a nice little gem to find hidden on Netflix. Anybody can watch it that has a Netflix subscription in the United States. You probably can find it other places too.
It's on YouTube as well.
Oh, is it really? Okay.
Yep,
okay.
it's actually on YouTube as well, and the print's not too bad. Now, did you watch the English dub version, Velvet?
I actually did not. Funny enough, the one on my Netflix is actually only in Spanish, and it has English subtitles available as well as Spanish subtitles. So I did watch. Got to practice my Spanish today with English subtitles on. So that was a lot of fun. Because the version I watched was the English dub. That kind of makes me want to watch it again just to see how the dub is. What did you think of the dub?
The dub is. I'll put it this way: when you're watching it and someone is saying something, I'm almost 100% positive that's not what the actor was actually saying.
Oh, goodness.
Do you know what I mean? I'm pretty sure that they played with the script a little bit because it's...
Okay, I need to watch it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch the dialogue is just way too simplistic for it to actually have been written that way.
Okay, because I was going to say the Spanish in this is a very high level of Spanish. I mean, like, they're talking about a lot of science, they're talking about religion, they're talking about, honestly, I'm not even going to lie, there were some words I was just like in English or Spanish, I'm kind of like, I don't think I've ever heard that word before. I'm not as intelligent as I thought I was. It's like, I'm serious. I was kind of like, I've never heard that word before. So... very intelligent dialogue, at least in the first half of the movie when there's a lot of science and religion talk. Yeah. And then, when it kind of just turns into the creature feature and everybody's, screaming and they have what do you think of the detectives figuring out that, because they're figuring out people are getting murdered and and they kind of think that this, the Baron, that everybody doesn't know is a monster half of the time. They kind of think the Baron's kind of connected to it, but they can't really piece it together. What do you think of the detectives?
It's that classic casting of, two detectives working together where you've got one who's highly intelligent and you've got one who's... So the one in charge is highly intelligent and the one who's working with him is a bit of a bumbling fool. And that's pretty much the way these two detectives are. I mean, even in the scene where they come racing into the castle because they've worked out what's going on and they come armed with flamethrowers.
Okay, I was like, whoa, that came out of nowhere, right? I didn't miss a plot point at all, did I?
No.
That literally came out of nowhere, right?
It's like, I mean, I was expecting them to run in, with a couple of guns or something. I could understand that, but they come running in with flamethrowers.
Yeah, and they cook the Brainiac, and the movie ends very quickly after.
I know, but if you notice that when the chief of police lights up his flamethrower, in the background you'll see his assistant fumbling, and he never actually uses it.
I didn't catch that. I was blown away. I was too shocked that they had flamethrowers because right when they literally they just all of a sudden run in, during the climax of the film, and I'm like, are those flamethrowers? And all of a sudden flames are flying and the Brainiac's on fire, and then he turns into a human, and then he in his old 1661 fashion wear, no doubt.
That's right.
Then he turns into a fucking skeleton. And
I know.
And then it says El fin, the end, and I'm like, oh, that was fast.
the ending, I have to admit, is so quick. It's so quick. But yeah, so that was.
But I liked it. I liked it. It's funny.
But yeah, so the detectives, yeah. So you've got that classic casting, the bumbling fool and the, and there are a few funny lines in it, like for instance when they're having lunch and the two detectives, that is, and they're talking about how the people were killed, how their brains were sucked out, and then the waitress comes up and puts the meal in front of the other detective and says, "Your lamb's brains, sir." So
Yeah.
there were a few little jokes like that, and but one thing I've got to point out, and this in regards to special effects, is that did you notice that when he starts to use the mind control, it's meant to be the idea of his eyes, sort of glow and light up. But they didn't do that, obviously, because they didn't have the budget or whatever to make his eyes glow. So what somebody's literally doing, they're standing behind the camera, flashing a torch in his face.
Yes.
So it's just hilarious.
It reminds me of old school Dracula with Bela Lugosi, and even the Spanish version of, the Mexican version of Dracula. They did that, the whole light, like right in his eyes, just to show that he's using mind control, and also like it somehow signifies that he's evil. Like he's not using his mind control for good. He's not, using it so these people will exercise and go to bed on time. It's it's this light signifies that they're using it for ill intent. But I liked it because every time you did it, you're like, here it goes.
Here it comes. But
it comes.
But I reckon there is a bit of a parallel with like Count Dracula, because he is a really suave, sophisticated operator, and there's also every time there's a woman involved in a death, it's very sexual. Like he gets very sexual with the woman before he kills them. It's I know. But it's so there is, and with that mind control thing going as well. So the way that obviously the story of Count Dracula can make women fall in love with him and so forth. So I thought there was like you're saying, there's quite a bit of that going on.
Totally.
But one of the weird things I found was that when the Baron comes into 1960 and he kills his first victim, steals his clothes, and he's walking along, and it's meant to be 3:30 in the morning or something like that, and he's going for and he meets two of our main characters, and but the amazing thing is they meet each other because the two of our characters are meant to be astronomers. So they're taking a walk from the observatory where they're actually working. But he just comes walking along. It's 3:30 or something in the morning. And it's just like, oh, hi, I'm just going for a walk. Oh, no problems. Nice to meet you. Yeah. No, there's no concern that it's 3:30 in the freaking morning.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Do you really have a guy walking through, and he's not just walking down the street, he's walking through the forest in his three-piece suit.
Exactly. I'm just like, oh my goodness. No, there's definitely some flaws in this movie, but this movie was really entertaining. I did like the story. It's a little slow in the beginning when it's doing the whole Inquisition, and then they're talking about the astronomy stuff, but then it like picks up from there and it gets really fun. The overall appearance of what they call the Brainiac in this movie is this is a really odd looking creature feature. This, I'm surprised, doesn't have more of a cult iconic status. It's definitely, I don't want to say it's underrated as an actual movie, but I mean, just the overall costume's hilarious. Just like you have fucking Robot Monster, which is the fucking guy in a yellow suit with the diver's helmet. This is up there with that for me, because it just looks so ridiculous. And the mask, come on, the mask, that is like,
so
he's breathing.
Bad.
When he breathes, which of course, he's going to do every 5 seconds because he's a human. When he breathes, this fucking mask, every time he inhales, the mask goes concave. Yeah. And then when he exhales, it puffs back out. Oh, that cracked me up so bad.
And you can see the holes in the mask and his eyes behind it. It's like they made no attempt to try to join it or bond it or anything like that. You can actually just see the cut out holes in the mask. It is hilarious, but I mean, look, in saying that, it is 1962. Their budget was probably pretty small,
right?
But But geez, it was fun. I actually really enjoyed
It
watching
was.
it, to be honest.
And I laughed out loud a couple of times on this. Like when he first appears, and what is it supposed to be, like the comet fell out of the sky, and it's just this giant rock, literally on a string. You see them drop it down on a string, and
I know.
Oh, they dropped a rock on a string. And before that, they were showing like the comet. That was a fucking piece of paper that they must have painted by like blue with little white dots for stars, and they stuck like a fucking fireworks, we call it sparklers. They stuck sparklers through it and lit it up, and it's just.
I know. It's so much fun to watch. This is, even though it's meant to be a horror movie in its time in 1962, but this quite seriously is something the whole family can sit and watch to a degree. I mean, there is nothing scary or spooky or anything.
It's just kind of funny. They did have a really good kill in there that actually, I'm not sure if any modern day horror films have copied the shower kill. That was pretty impressive.
Now, in saying that, I'd actually forgotten about that, and it's really about the only really violent thing that's in the movie.
Right.
Is where one of the kills, one of the men is actually like drowned, hanging upside down with his head in a bathtub. And that, I have to admit, did throw me a bit, because all the other kills were honestly... You see, like children's television, like Doctor Who, where monsters kill people actually more violently than they do in this, and that's kids' TV,
Yeah.
But seeing when the guy was hanging upside down, that actually was kind of freaky, to be truthful.
Oh no, that was brutal. That was like, wow, that's brutal. Yeah, the guy is hanging upside down by the shower head. He has tied his ankles to the shower head, and he filled the bathtub up with water, and the guy obviously couldn't move, so his head was submerged, and he drowned hanging upside down from the shower head in his own bathtub. And I'm like, wow, that is a brutal kill.
I know, like, wow. I know. Yeah, that one actually surprised me a bit, because all the others are literally, he just grabs them in this tongue thing, which doesn't actually move. And then it cuts
away and they're gone.
Yeah.
And like that fake ass, long ass, meter long fork tongue is like touching the back of their head, and that's how he's supposed to suck their brains out. I like this movie. It was a lot of fun to watch, and it's short too, people. This movie's less than like an hour and 20 minutes, not even hour and 11 minutes, really short.
Oh,
and it goes pretty quickly. So.
And it will just end. Like you'll get to a stage where you where the police burst in with their flamethrowers, and you think that seriously, there's probably still another 15 minutes to go or something like that. Just to wind the story up, and will they live happily ever after, and all this sort of stuff. But no, it's just straight to the credits. It
was funny. I was like, dang, they didn't waste any time. They're like, monster's gone.
I know.
But, what did you think of the main female? I thought she was so annoying. Just like, she had this thing where she would just like stare off into space, like just not pay attention while people are talking. And I'm like, if somebody's talking to me, I'm going to look at them. And she's just like staring straight ahead, unexpressionless. Or then like she would be trying to like conjure up emotion on her face, and it just looked too forced. Like, I didn't like her. I thought she was really annoying.
I actually, to be truthful, I think she was. Well, it's 1962. Half the actors probably aren't even alive anymore. So, but right. I just have the feeling that she was probably, when this film was made, cast for her looks and maybe not for her acting ability.
Totally. No, because she's a beautiful woman, definitely. Yeah. But her acting ability.
Yeah. No, it's like
in the crapper.
Yeah, but that is the other interesting thing too. With the police may be a little bit different, but everybody else in this who's cast in this, they're stunningly good looking, and they're so well dressed.
It's a really attractive cast, actually. Yeah.
But it's I just thought that she was just maybe it's a bit like, and once again, I want to be careful how I say this, but like how sometimes you'll get a movie and they'll cast a penthouse pet or a Playboy pet or something, and it's like, they're absolutely gorgeous, but they've got no acting training or,
Nope.
and
exactly.
and I just think that there was maybe a bit of that in there.
That's probably exactly what it was.
Because even them as a couple, right? They didn't seem to even bond with each other, and they're meant to be engaged, aren't they? I think.
I think so.
You know, our main couple, you know, throughout the movie. So it's just like, because at the start, I couldn't actually tell if they were married, if they were engaged, or if they were just workmates, or if they were friends. Like, I actually had no idea until it's actually said, "Oh, you're engaged." Like,
yeah, because they never actually kiss in the movie. Like, but at the same time, I think we're just so used to that formula now that they have to explicitly show, okay, they're a couple, so we have to have at least one scene where they kiss and hug. And this movie didn't do that. It was just kind of like, you know what, they're a couple. That's all you need to know. You don't need proof. You don't need to see. Just here, let's get back to the Brainiac. We're sucking out brains here. Look. So, you know, they had a mission. They stuck on point with it.
But look, I've got to say to people, this really is fun. It's like I said.
Fun.
I actually said to Velvet, I don't know if it was today. I think I said to you that I thought this movie reminded me of the sort of stuff I used to get on TV when I was a kid. You know, like
Jeez,
you know, like
nice.
Yeah, no,
television for kids, I said.
No, I know. But it's like, no, because it's so old, you know, it's 1962. So the thing is that, you know, it's not viewed as being scary. I mean, no. I can remember watching TV as a child growing up, and there'd be movies on a Sunday afternoon or something like that, which were much freakier and scarier than this.
Oh, I can imagine.
You know, I can remember, I can remember growing up, and you'd often get like a Hammer horror movie on at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Sunday.
Oh my God.
You know, so that's what I sort of mean by that. It's sort of meant to be a horror, but because it's so old, it's almost charming. You know, in what you see. So,
totally.
But I really enjoyed it, and I'd recommend to people to give this a try. Actually, and the English dub is funny because you can just tell.
Okay, I'm going to watch the English dub like later in the week because I want to see that. But yeah, if you speak Spanish or you want to practice your Spanish or you're just a fan of foreign film, I can definitely recommend the English subtitled version. Currently available on American Netflix.
So yes, see, unfortunately, it wasn't available on Australian Netflix, which was not surprising because Australian Netflix is shit. Yes, you heard me say it, Netflix. Your service is shit.
Come on, Netflix, get with it. Get with the program.
It's terrible. I mean, Netflix in Australia is like right now is its ideal time to grow. You know, it's fairly new. It's only been in Australia for a couple of years, and it's just not growing. You know, people are turning off free-to-air TV. People are turning off cable because it's too expensive. Netflix, you know, is there to just grab this market. And what are they doing? Jack shit. You know, it's
okay. Netflix, we're looking for a sponsor for a cult movie show. This is the perfect time for you to step in. So, just saying.
And if that happens, I take it all back. You're a wonderful company, Netflix. Love you. You're perfect.
I love Netflix.
It's like, I'm trying to say this. I love Netflix. Everyone says I love Netflix. Everyone tells me how much I love Netflix. Netflix loves me too. Everyone's just saying, I know. There it is. Okay.
It's true.
Yes.
It's one in every home, just like television. If you have television, you have Netflix now. So at least in the United States. So
no, I mean, I have to admit though, in all seriousness, I do actually, I mean, I watch Netflix all the time. I mean, I do, and I'm not the only person in Australia who says the content level in Australia is just really low. But I know, like with yourself, you know, Velvet, and everyone I know in America, you know, they love Netflix because there's so much stuff there. It's just that in
the original
certain
programming, they get really like current and up to date television shows. I mean, they really revolutionized the way we watch television now because I don't even watch television. I wait till it's on Netflix and then I marathon the motherfucker.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, like you get your fix all at once. No more waiting for it to happen. And
and a lot of shows have actually transferred directly to Netflix. They've actually left. I mean, for instance, the really popular show Trailer Park Boys from Canada, it's now moved totally across to Netflix. The Chelsea Handler, her show, she moved away and basically she now works directly with Netflix. So, you know, it's happening more and more. And, you know, I love it. I just wish, I remember I had a friend in Canada who remember them actually posting a tweet, and it just said, "What do I want for my birthday? I dream and wish for an American Netflix account." You know, because that's the thing.
They are pretty sweet.
I know, because you guys have got
excellent selection.
Yeah, I don't think people in America realise just how lucky they are with their Netflix compared to other countries around the world. It's nowhere up to the US standard. Which is a shame.
I love you, Netflix. Anytime you want to sponsor us, we'll welcome you with open arms.
Absolutely,
we'll help you expand in Australia.
Absolutely, and I promise that if you do come on board, it's actually someone impersonating me who's just said what I've said. Okay, so it wasn't me.
This is a little off topic, but then I just have to throw this out there. There was actually a man that he got Netflix tattooed on his body, and Netflix gave him a 1-year free membership.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was like, not for life? I mean, like, come on, the tattoo's for life. He should have a lifetime membership. But I guess they didn't want a bunch of people getting Netflix tattoos, and then they'd have to give out hundreds of free memberships. So,
but a year-long membership's like about what, $100? I mean, seriously, you're gonna get
how much it costs to get the tattoo. I guess it evens out. Yes, it evens out. So.
You know, so yeah, but interesting.
Yeah, he tweeted it, and Netflix hooked him up with a 1-year free membership. Here you go, mate.
Well, so. I do remember in Australia a number of years ago there was a football player who actually got his name changed to it was a brand of food. I can't remember what it was. I don't know. Bird's eye fish.
Like that food.
No, it was like bird's eye fish fingers or something. I can't remember what it was. Right?
Oh my god!
So the idea was when he was playing the game and the sportscasters were calling the game, whenever he'd get the ball, whatever, instead of sort of, I don't know what his name was, I don't know, Joe Smith or something, right? So instead of saying, and Joe Smith's dropped the ball and he's running down the field, no, instead they would have to say, and Bird's Eye Fish Fingers has dropped the ball and he's running down the field.
What?
Yeah.
Who does that? What a weirdo.
So, yeah, I know. It's a true story, though. It wasn't fish fingers, it was something else, but, oh, dearie me. So anyway, Brainiac.
Highly recommended. Definitely. Yeah. 60s creature feature, underrated. A lot of people don't know about it, so definitely check it out.
Definitely check it out. And honestly, maybe watch both versions, because I've got a feeling you might find the English dub a little bit funnier than the Spanish one. But definitely either way, whichever way you go, check it out. I like it. Thumbs up.
Right on, totally.
Most definitely. All right, we will be right back with movie number 3. Now, movie number 3 is this time from New Zealand. This is, I think, the first New Zealand movie we've actually looked at. And I'll tell you what, it's really good. I've got nothing bad to say about this. And it is Deathgasm from 2015. And I know you love this one, don't you, Velvet?
Yes. This one's really fun. I'm a metalhead at heart, so I knew I eventually had to watch this movie.
It is wonderful. It's as we said, it's from 2015, but I don't think from watching this movie seems to be set in 2015. It seems to be
I don't think so either. Like maybe 90s, possibly early 2000s, but definitely a time when people were still actively listening to CDs and using Discmans or CD Walkmans.
And it's also pre-mobile phone.
And pre-mobile phone.
It's and also, for instance, they're driving a Holden Kingswood. I mean, it's a pretty old car. So I just got the feeling that, yeah, it's sort of meant to be set much earlier than 2015. But anyway, the story is brilliant. So, basically we've got, it follows our main character called Brody. And Brody comes from a bit of a broken home, if you like. Because I think at the start of the movie, it says that his mother went on a meth bender and tried to give Santa Claus a blowjob. And that was...
wow, that must be horrifying.
Yeah, and
if that's your mother? Oh, yeah.
Yes. And so he gets sent off to live with his uncle. And his uncle is basically a devout Christian and hates the fact that Brody is into heavy metal, like, you know, with all the little satanic symbols and stuff like that. Now, he meets up with a guy called Zach, who's also another sort of metalhead, and with a couple of other friends that they make, two guys who are obsessed with Dungeons and Dragons, they form their own heavy metal band. And while this is all going on, they break into a house because the whole movie is set in like a country sort of rural town in New Zealand, and they break into this sort of like country house where they believe that a very famous New Zealand heavy metal artist is actually living, and they break in there and they find out that he is living in there, but he's actually been blending the occult with heavy metal. And but to cut a long story short, he gives them lyrics or an actual song, which is a song which, if played, summons up demons. But they don't know this. So they take it back and they decide that they're going to play the song with their band, which of course they do, and of course they summon up the demons, and then of course all hell goes, breaks out in this small country town. And it's almost very similar to a zombie apocalypse movie in some ways. It's just that instead of being zombies, they're all demons. Everybody in the town gets turned into a demon. Now, we've got another major cast member in this as well, who is called Medina, and she sort of becomes the love interest because she sort of falls for Brody and Brody falls for her. Although she does at the time, she's actually dating Brody's cousin, and Brody's cousin is a real bully, he's a real arsehole. And, but Medina sort of starts to see the light and starts to, fall for the nice guy rather than the bad boy that she's dating at the moment. And there is so much stuff that goes on about this. If I'm going to try to talk you through the whole movie, we will be here for the length of the entire movie. There is so much stuff going on left, right, and centre.
Yes, it's hilarious.
What did you think?
It's really entertaining. This is a really good comedy horror film. It's really hard to combine those genres because a lot of times horror films will have like comedic moments, but overall it's a horror film. And this one's a very well balanced comedic horror film. I think you get like equal amounts of both, honestly, because the horror on this, like a lot of times if it's a comedy horror, the horror is very downplayed. It's kind of like implied or it's super fake. And this one is like super gory. Like it's really graphically gory, gross, bloody, and brutal. These are really brutal violence in this movie. It's really surprising. But then there's still that layer of humor that's actually funny. It's not a failed attempt at humor. It's not a lame pun. This movie is a real gem. It's a recent film. It's only from 2015, so this will definitely hit cult status because this is just such a unique mixture of comedy and horror because it's really well balanced. You actually care about the characters. There's good character depth for the main characters. And the overall storyline, the plot's really quite good. Did you find any major plot holes? Because I actually thought this was pretty well fleshed out for what it is.
It's been written really, really well, and it's directed. It was directed by Jason Howden, and he's done a fantastic job with not very much money at all. And you would be amazed the shoestring budget they actually made this film on, and it is. It just flows beautifully, like it really does. You never get confused about what's going on. Everything, is being answered for you as you go along. And the jokes in it is just one line of jokes, one after the other. They just, it's like the hits just keep coming, It's like you can't go more than a few minutes with somebody dropping a one-liner somewhere. And the other beauty about them too is because the movie's from New Zealand, it's done in that very New Zealand sense of humour, that very dry sort of understatement, which two countries do it really well, Britain and New Zealand. They are masters, of the understatement. And they do this in this movie so well. I mean, for instance, when Zach's father becomes a demon, So they're fighting him, right? And they're chopping his legs off, and they're attacking his face with an angle grinder and all the rest of it, right? And then suddenly an engine, because they're in a garage, like a mechanic's workshop, and then suddenly an entire engine falls down from its hoist and crushes his head, right? And they're just standing there, and then and Brody just sort of says, "Oh, geez, should we check for a pulse?" And Zach just replies, "He's got an engine block on his head, bro."
Yeah, he's got an engine for a head.
Yeah, I know. It's just like, and then he goes on and sort of says, "Well, don't worry, it's the way he would have wanted to have gone." And Brody goes, "What, you mean missing limbs and having his face taken off with an angle grinder?"
Yeah, the engine dropped on his head. Yeah.
Oh,
Totally.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, no, really well written. I really like the characters in this film because, so many times in horror films, the characters are flat. You don't care if they die. Honestly, the reason you watch the movies, you want to watch them die. You want to see how gory it gets and how they die. And in this film, you actually care about the characters. Like, I don't want to do any spoilers, but there are some characters in the movie that end up getting killed. And I'm like, oh, they're killing him. Oh, he got killed too. Like, you actually care about these characters. And you're just like, yeah.
I know. I was expecting this to be a little bit more like, what was it? The Boy Scouts Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. And I must admit there are a lot of similarities between these two films. I'm not saying they're copied from each other by any means, but they do sort of follow a very similar path where you've got a group of boys and you've got one girl. They're all alone. The town's been taken over, and they've got to sort of, stop it all. Whether it be the zombies in the Scouts Guide, or whether it be demons in Deathgasm. But it's sort of the same thing, and so just like you were saying, Velvet, I was expecting it to be more like the Scouts Guide, where everyone lives. So this threw me a little bit when we've sort of started to bond with certain people, and then. We start to actually lose some of them,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really don't know who's going to get it. You're like, oh shit, it's getting serious. And it still maintains its comedic edge though, and the special effects in this are really great. I really liked it. I was when they do the very first gore kill, you're just like, oh, it's that kind of movie. You're like, oh, they're not going to be fucking around in this movie. They're gonna, they weren't kidding when they said there's going to be horror elements. This is wow. I see guts, man. I see guts.
But we have to say is even though this is slasher territory with so much blood and gore, at the same time, we've just got that typical ludicrous, I'm not even going to go further than New Zealand, Commonwealth type comedy where you've just got ludicrous scenes in a serious movie. I mean, like for instance, where Brody and Zach go back to Brody's parents' house, his aunt and uncle's house, and they've become demons. And so they've been attacked. So they run into the uncle and uncle's bedroom, and they're trying to find something. So they're saying, "Well, does your uncle have a gun?" It's like, "No, I don't think so." So, well, what have we got here? What have we got? And they open up the bedroom drawer, and it's full of sex toys.
Oh my god! And so they're using fucking anal beads, and they're like whipping them around, and they're beating them to death with dildos. Oh, that was. I died. That was so funny.
It is hilarious. I mean, the fact that
was so unexpected. That was so.
I know they're fighting them with these giant dildos and vibrators, and oh my god,
goodness gracious, that shit. Yeah, that movie's fucking hilarious. I loved it. I was so glad I watched it because if you're not a fan of heavy metal, or especially in this case, death metal is what they're really representing. Don't let that turn you off from this movie.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're not a fan of satanic themes or demonic themes, again, don't let that keep you from watching this movie. This is going to be an exception. You're going to love this one. You're going to be entertained. You're going to be laughing. You're going to have a couple of jump scares. You're going to get grossed out. You're going to love this movie. It's really going to surprise you.
Yeah.
Don't let the title throw you off. Deathgasm, that's the name of the death metal band that awakens these demons. Deathgasm! So like we had to say it like that one time during this review. It's such a delight, and they're actually making they're making fun of the death metal scene, but in a lighthearted way. This is not a way that any true metalheads will actually be offended, because you'll look at that and go, yeah,
I know,
yeah, I've seen that, or I've done that, or I've said that. Like they've got all the little stereotypes about the metalhead community in here, and they even spoof one of the bad music videos that some of these like underground death metal scenes, because they're basically doing the whole corpse paint, and that's with the black and white face, and you'll see that in the Norwegian death metal scene, and they're actually spoofing this one fucking band called Immortal that's known for making these horrible cheap ass videos of them playing their instruments in the woods. They're not plugged in. The video is called Call of the Winter Moon by Immortal. So if you want to Google it and watch how shitty this video is, you get to see it spoofed in this movie.
See, I didn't pick that up. So that's brilliant.
So yeah, any like major metalheads will love this, and just like the whole. I also love the overall look of this movie. They pay a lot of homage to the overall aesthetic of heavy metal, so not just the fashion with long hair and leather and metal spikes, but also like album artwork cover, which is kind of, going away because now everything's digital and you don't really buy CDs and records like you used to. Because back then you would buy a fucking album based on the artwork. Like, oh, look, they got a disemboweled cow. Yeah. This is going to be the most metal album ever. And, people would buy their music based on how disgusting or shocking the album artwork is. And they pay a lot of mention to that in this movie.
It's the other thing, too, is that, like you said earlier, is that they're very, very clear in explaining right from the start that there is no link with occult and heavy metal. Like they never even once try to play with the idea that the two are related. They definitely play with the idea that one thing is occult, the other thing is heavy metal, and imagery may overcross, but belief doesn't. And they're very, very, so they're not by any means ever trying to say that, you're into the occult if you're into heavy metal. So I actually really like that, because it would have been so easy for them to have sort of run down with the idea that, because they're into heavy metal, they're also into the occult. I mean,
totally not.
They only get drawn into the occult by accident. They don't intend to. So it's brilliant. And the fact too that it's I just think too the fact that it's set in a small New Zealand town as well just makes it even more fantastic. It's like you shoot these movies, or they're made by, a country like New Zealand and they're regional, or Norway and they're regional, or, somewhere like that. And it just adds that little edge because you're not expecting this sort of big heavy metal or hard, rock culture to be in this tiny little country town, which has probably only got a population of a couple of hundred,
Right, totally.
And so it's really, really kind of sort of cool that way. It's, I loved it. I've just got nothing bad to say about this at all. It's,
this movie really surprised me because for me, honestly, the name was off-putting. So I'm kind of like, oh God, that just sounds stupid. Deathgasm. And then I was like, oh, metalhead summoning demons. Oh, this is probably fucking stupid. But on a random recommendation online, I decided to give it a try. And wow, I am so glad I did. I almost missed out on this. This is such a fun, good gem that you got to see.
Oh, absolutely. And it should just finally, I should just basically say, I think why it worked so well is that the director, Jason Howard himself, freely admits that when he was a teenager, he was a metalhead in New Zealand. And so, but he was also a loner. He was an outcast. Like, he wasn't popular at school. He didn't have very many friends. And he used heavy metal as his out, as his escape. So yes. I think the beauty of it too, and why it worked so well, is the fact that, he's portraying characters that he was himself as a teenager.
Exactly.
And I think that really helps, the movie.
Absolutely. That's why the characters have so much depth, because he can relate. Because, the whole death metal scene, or even just heavy metal in itself, is a community. And, people can identify each other just by seeing each other if they're really into the fashion aspect of it. And it's not prejudice. It's not a bad assumption. You know, it's like you're automatically in this brotherhood or sisterhood of metalheads if they see you're wearing, you know, a Slayer t-shirt, a Cannibal Corpse t-shirt, if you got long hair, if you got leather. Like, it sounds stereotypical and shallow, but I mean, that community still very much functions in that way. And they touched on that in this movie too.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you form a brotherhood just because you like the same music.
It's brilliant. So, look, most definitely, it's a thumbs up from me.
Absolutely.
I absolutely do it. And I recommend everybody go and chase down Deathgasm. It's really good. It's really funny, but it's also, it's a dark black comedy, but it's still horror, it's still slasher, and it's well written, it's well acted, it's well directed, and, you know, New Zealand is making a ton of really good stuff at the moment. So, you know, and they've got obviously such a small population and such a tiny film industry. Although it is being helped obviously with a lot of American dollars flying in from, you know, like Lord of the Rings and all this sort of stuff. But still, you know, it's a great growing industry and they're making some great stuff. It's their independent stuff which shines, I reckon, you know, from New Zealand. So
Totally.
No, most definitely. So no, definitely check this one out. Well, I think we've pretty much come to an end for this podcast.
Yeah, totally.
And as we said before, we don't actually know when this podcast is going to air.
This is our B-roll, so it could be in a couple weeks, could be a couple months, maybe not.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe it'll be the hidden archive.
So I suppose we shall say to people, I don't know, Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah.
And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Whatever it may, maybe we'll even say Happy Easter, because God only knows when you'll actually, that's right,
exactly.
be listening to this. So, but anyway, thanks for listening as always, guys. So, just quickly, of course, you can follow the show, which of course is Cult Movie Show on Twitter. You can follow me. My Twitter is Martini Superdry.
Yes.
I got it right. I always get it wrong. And, of course, you follow the Only Funny to Us podcast, OFTU podcast on Twitter. But please, of course, follow Alana Evans, which is Alana Evans, XXX. And of course, we always say thank you to her for supplying the music. That's me. I'm done. Go for it, Velvet.
Right on. And if you want to know more about me and what I'm up to, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at OMG It's Velvet. I post adult content, so I want you to be an adult too. So please be 18 years or older if you want to check me out. All right, that's it. Take us home, Warren.
Excellent. So thanks for joining in. Thanks for listening. Well, at least I'll say thanks for listening because I have no idea if this podcast will even go to air. But anyway, thanks for listening if it has gone to air. And we will, of course, be back next week. Because I'm getting all Doctor Who-y now with time zones. I don't actually know what I'm talking about. Because for all I know, you could be listening to this in 2018 by the time it actually goes out. So anyway, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week, and we will leave you, as always, with Alana Evans and Perfect.